Hi, you guys. This is so fun. I'm going to let some people join in. So, today, I decided to start a little series. I'm going to let you guys pile on in here so I can tell you all about it. What's up, Ruba? Hey, Matthew. Let's see here. Okay. So, like maybe a week ago or so, I was scrolling Instagram and I saw one of my friends just being absolutely fabulous and amazing. And it really inspired me because I had this realization that there are so many people right now who were doing unbelievably great things in the world, and they still are. But I wanted to kind of get some insight on how people who were on a path that has been interrupted or postponed during this season, how that impacts us and how we can learn from these great achievers and apply those things to our lives. So I have started a series called Stay Motivated. Today's my first episode, so bear with me as I navigate how to do this. But I'm going to do my first interview, my first IG interview. And today's guest is my sweet, sweet friend, Lori Hernandez. Let me see, how do I do this? Here we go. I think this is working. Is it?
Am I in?
Ah! Hi, girl!
Hi. How are you?
Hey, lady! Oh my gosh, I'm so good. How are you?
I'm good. I still have like post-workout hair, but
Oh no, I approve of that. I put on a lip just because it makes me feel better when I put on a lip. I hadn't bathed.
you look so
No,
beautiful.
but I hadn't bathed in I think 2 days. I did this for you. Yeah. I'm
Thank
sure
you
a lot of
so
other people
much.
haven't bathed in 2 days either. So.
I felt that in my chest. Oof.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I
God.
feel that. Quarantine, man. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's funny that I started this because you motivated me. There was there was this video that you posted where you were like flipping on a towel with a dog, and I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
he's an Olympian. I was like, wow. Um, Here I am, like, struggling to just like do a couple push-ups in my house. Like, I'm not trying to be on a beam or one of those the swingy thing. Like, I'm not doing any of that. And I was so inspired by you. And it's funny because it's like some days I wake up and I feel like I can take on the world. I feel like I can do anything. And other days I barely can wake up. And if I brush my teeth and wash my face that day, like then I feel like I'm
That's a full-on success. I feel
right.
that.
So where are you right
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
You said you're on the East Coast.
I'm on the East Coast. I'm currently in New Jersey with my family. I'm in my room right now, which is like odd because when you leave home and you live somewhere else and then you come back into your childhood home, it's like it's a little weird, you know? It's a little weird, but it's been awesome. And being with my family has been so great because everybody still lives in New Jersey. I'm the only one who's really far out of state, and not just out of state, like I'm across the country.
Absolutely.
I went to California. So it's like, in the midst of all of this, I got to steal a lot of time with everybody, which I definitely wouldn't have gotten
Yeah.
before.
When's the
So,
last time that you were home for this long?
the last time that I was home for this long was probably like mid to late 2018, I
Wow.
think. This is a very long
Wow.
time. I mean, it's crazy, but
Yeah,
I
no,
love it. I'm
well, that's
I'm
the
cool
thing
with
is
it.
it's like this time is full of a lot of uncertainty, but it's also
Yeah,
had some gifts inside of it. There's been like we've gotten to
absolutely.
kind of see that the whole world can actually change on a dime, and that can be really challenging, but it can also have some benefits like getting to spend time with your family.
Yeah. I mean, I know that because as you know, like the Olympics was supposed to be this year,
Yeah.
and they ended up postponing it until next year. But of course, when it's the games, when it's something as big as that, you're hustling and the goal is to peak at the right time. So we were just like going, 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 going. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, no more practice. Like
Yeah,
it's
like what
it's
was
frowned
that
upon. Like
moment
it's
like
literally
for
a
you?
misdemeanor if you go somewhere else. Like,
I said, what was
sorry,
that
what was that?
moment like for you? Like that, like when you kind of like, did it sort of happen gradually where it kind of unfolded, or like did it just hit you all at once?
So, I mean, here's my thing, because we were, I think especially like the United States Olympic Committee and the Olympic Committee in general, I think they were doing their best to try and get everybody's input. So a couple days before they made the announcement, they had a Zoom call. They brought in 300 plus athletes. That way they could hear all of our concerns. And like they put us into 4 separate chat rooms and basically were like, okay, tell us what you're thinking about, which is like, I had never been a part of something like that
Yeah.
before. And at first it was kind of scary because sharing your concerns about something so big feels odd because, obviously, of course, there's going to be someone with opposing ideas. Like, my point of view is like, okay, I don't know how long the postponement should or would be, but also keeping the games at the same time would be tough because there are athletes in the US who can't train at the time, including myself, and then there are athletes who still could. And then you have athletes across the world who their countries are shut down in quarantine. They can't train, but we can. That's not fair. That's not a fair game. So there were a lot of different, I guess, things like that I was thinking of. And also, it was a lot. So I had expressed that, and somebody else was kind of like, no, we should keep the games. Like the games is that's going to be everybody's source of light and positivity. You have people from all over the world coming together for something that they're passionate about. Why would you want to postpone that? Why would you? And so like, there's a lot of different point of views. All of them made sense, but a lot of it, like, if I had shared something, it was really comforting to hear other athletes be like, yeah, I'm really anxious about not knowing either. And then all of a sudden it turned into like me connecting with other athletes and sharing like, hey, I'm scared. They're like, yeah, I'm scared too. And I made a lot of friends on that Zoom call from different sports that I didn't know before because we literally bonded over sharing what we were worried about. So a couple days later, the news comes in. They release that the Olympics is going to be postponed. And even though that's what I had wanted, just in the sense of like, we have no idea what's happening. Why keep it if we can't train?
Right.
It was still, like getting hit in the face with a pan. You get the rug swept out of you because a year is a pretty long time. And it's just, I need time to adapt to change. And that's a very, very big change.
Yeah.
Abrupt change. That's a good word for it. And it's like we were going, all this energy, meal prepping, like everything gears to that moment. And then it was like, okay, that's actually not going to happen this year. And it was kind of like, oh, wait, you mean I have to gear up and take this pressure and this stress and do it again next year? It was a lot. So I definitely was a little bit emotional about it. But at the end of the day, like, I think everybody can agree the world comes first. And I agree with it. I understand it. It's still just, it was a tough thing to get used to, but I get it. So yeah, that was a long one. Sorry.
Yeah, gosh. Yeah, no, it's so interesting, Lori. Like I feel you, like and I like my heart aches because it is such a monumental time. It's a time where the world really does come together, and it's really rallying in many ways around young people and like that being like a beacon of hope for the world, and so it's powerful and emotional, and I feel like we should feel emotional about it. And it brings up something really important, which is like this is what you were doing with your day, your time, your energy. Like what did training look like? I mean, I went back on your feed, and just like 6 weeks ago, you were like flipping around.
We were going
like
at
going
it. I mean,
so
it
hard.
was about to be meet season. Yeah, it was about to be meet season. So we were just piecing routines together and trying to. I mean, these are the routines that I was supposed to compete at the Olympics.
Right. And tell us, because I'm sure a lot of people here, are not Olympic athletes, like President Coleman excluded. So, no, but a lot of people may not understand, like, what does your day look like when you're training? Like, what time do you wake up? Like, what does that even entail?
So luckily for me, my coaches don't really like morning workouts, and I have become a night owl since moving to California. Now I kind of like sleeping a little bit. So the schedule works in my favor. In the mornings, usually I would go to physical therapy first, and I would do that 2 or 3 times a week. If I didn't have physical therapy, then it was some sort of like cycling, boxing, or some days I was just tired and I don't want to work out, and that was fine. So I would take the morning off. But every day it was consistent that practice would start at 2 and end around 6:30, 7-ish. But what's really neat about our workouts is that if you get your assignment done fast enough, you can go home early. If you don't get your assignments done fast enough, then there's no judgment and no shame in you needing to like take more time, which is nice. So they don't have a like cut set time frame, because also like me and my teammates agree, if you stand there waiting for the clock to tick 6:30 and you're ready to go home, you're not going to be productive doing that. So I'm doing actually less hours than I was doing before, but somehow getting a lot more done because like I'm not waiting for the clock to end. I want to be there. So that's about 5 days a week. And then Saturdays is usually 10 to 1. It's an easier day for us. And then we have Sundays off.
6 days a week.
It is 6 days a week. Yeah.
Wow. And now I know, I'm sure it took a minute to for everyone to rally once you realized that it was going to be postponed to next year.
Yeah.
How does that change your training schedule? Like, do you go into like maintenance mode? Like is it like pinching it off and you're like, oh, okay, so like, let's just be here this time next year? Or like, do you get to like relax? I don't, how does that work?
Yeah. So basically, if the world wasn't on fire, but the Olympics was still postponed, we would still be in the gym doing like maintenance routines. So basically at least for us, every athlete is different. Every gym is different. I only speak for me, but, at our gym, they would have us do basic routines where the start value would be a lot lower and it's more for cardio just to make sure you're still moving. And then maintenance in the sense of like, okay, you have 3 of this skill, 3 of this skill, and you just basically keep it going. And then when it's time for meet season, you take all the harder skills and you take the time. It takes a second, but you piece them all together. And then when you have those routines together and you can do them all in one go, then you start running those over and over again. So that way, when you're out there, you don't have to worry about endurance. So the only thing you're worried about is like, I need to hit. What am I going to think about? And they kind of teach you through training it that like falling is not an option. You're just banking on hitting. It's more of how well can you hit, which makes things, I find that comforting. I used to find that really stressful. Oh God, I don't have the option to fall, but it's also, it's like, what did I do? But then it's kind of like ominous positivity. Yeah. At least that's how I was seeing it. It was like, you're not going to fall. It's just not going to happen. It's not in the cards for you. All you have to focus on is how well you're going to hit. And that actually took off a lot of pressure. So that's the mindset that we keep when we're training. How much do I have to train until I can get to the point where I'm not worried about falling anymore? I'm worried about were my feet together? How's the execution? Does it look pretty? Am I finishing, like, especially on bars, like, are all my pirouettes finishing in a handstand? Because if you finish like too far over, that's a full deduction. They deduct depending. So it's like, are my pirouettes in a handstand? When I catch, am I too close to the bar? Because that's also a deduction. If you're too far away and it scares the judges, that's probably a deduction. So it's like, it's tweaking all the little things. And that's kind of the mindset that we keep when we're gearing up for meet season. Since we are in quarantine mode, it's a little different. Nobody could have prepped for this. I can be honest, like, I don't know about anybody else. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I'm kind of just winging it as we go. And I remember like the first week that we were told like, okay, no more going out unless it's essential. Like, that's it. I didn't do anything for like a week because I didn't know what to do. My job is to move. And now that's the way that I know how to move is now stripped, and I didn't know how to handle it. And I also know that from experience, working out outside of practice doesn't feel good because it's like, okay, my job is to move. Now I'm going to move more.
Right.
So it was like the option of maintenance and running and weightlifting or whatever it was not appealing at all. I just didn't want to do anything. So I didn't. And that was fine. And then about a week later, I was like, you know what? I miss doing something. And that's where that.
And is that kind of where you are right now?
Yeah, let's put the rugs down and see what we can get done. And that's where that video came from. Sorry, I'm totally rambling.
No, no, we're all fascinated though, because, it's like, to think about how you have to adapt and that at any moment, like you can be on a path. All of this is relevant, whether, you were going to the Olympics or you just, you went to the same job every day and now your kids are home. Like whatever the situation is, I think going from, being in a routine and being in your purpose, because like when I see you, Lori, that's the thing is it's like, you're a young person who's like actually living fully in their purpose. And for that to get to kind of interrupted, because it hasn't gone anywhere. It's just on pause for a moment. I think that
Yeah.
really then causes us to rely on our other tools. And one thing I know, I saw in your bio that you work with, that you're an ambassador for I Don't Mind, and kind of researching
Yeah.
and seeing a little bit about that. And, you know, would you call yourself like a mental health advocate or like, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. My mom is a social worker. My sister's a therapist. She has her own private practice. So that kind of let's talk about your
sure.
feelings has come since I came out of the womb. And then also like I grew up with both sides of like, let's break it down, let's talk about it. And then I grew up with my dad being like, just go for it. Yeah,
Oh,
like full
interesting.
send. Like and that was so important because there's sometimes where I'm just feeling a lot and I have to figure out what compartment I'm going to pull from that day and see what works best
Right.
for me. And some days I have to just like close my eyes and go for it. And some days I have to sit back and go, okay, why am I freaking out? Because I just fell in a routine. It's
Right.
practice, like, and pulling it apart. So yeah, I would definitely say I'm a mental health advocate. I think that's so important. And
I imagine like when you're out there,
I
so
mean,
much of it
yeah.
has to be mental, you know, and so like, what do you do to calm your nerves? Like, do you still get nervous when you're out there, or is it something that like, does your mind go blank and you just kind of only see what's in front of you? What's out there?
Yeah. So, um, whenever I'm doing gymnastics clinics, I get that question a lot of like, what do you do? Does it get better when you're competing? Do you still get nervous? The answer is yes, absolutely. You don't ever stop getting nervous. You just learn how to cope with it a lot better. Um, it's
And like, what are your
okay. For
tips? Like, if
example,
you're
like,
standing there and you're like, and how do you know you're nervous? Like, I know I'm nervous because I literally break out
mm,
into sweats. Like, everything can be calm on the outside, and then I'm like, oh my god, my shirt
yeah,
is soaking wet right now. I must be nervous.
I'm the opposite. I go completely cold.
Oh,
My hands get cold. I can't move. Like like competing, especially on like balance beam, is the worst for me because I need to be able to feel the beam under my
sure.
feet and feel like my hands. And if I get that nervous, my whole body turns into ice and I have to somehow just salute the judge and like break out of it with every skill that I'm doing. So a lot of my routines, I don't know, on YouTube or wherever, they actually sometimes they get I guess a little bit better as the routine goes on because I'm starting to warm up.
Oh, it makes sense.
But when I was at the Olympics, I I can always tell because I can like hear my heart in my ears, and everybody's different.
Did you say you can hear your
My
heart
hands
in
get
your
really
ear?
cold. Yeah, I can hear my heartbeat like pulsing right here,
Wow.
and that's really uncomfortable. and, and also like sometimes I get sensory overload and things feel like it's too loud. And then of course I can
Mm.
tell that I'm too cold, and it just that's that little peak moment of like, okay, a lot is happening right now. I have to not shut it down, but acknowledge it and feel it.
Yeah.
Because if I deny that feeling and if I say, okay, I'm not nervous, it gets worse. And then I'm
Right.
screwed. Like I can't compete like that. It's happened before where I just was nervous and I was like, okay, you're not nervous. You're fine. You're fine. Ignore it. You're confident. You're gonna good. And in my mind, I was still doubting myself and I'd hop up and I fall because here wasn't good. Physically, I was ready, but here wasn't good. So I've learned what's best for me is going up. I have to breathe. Someone told me that when you get nervous, your brain, I guess, shuts off a certain part of your oxygen
Yep.
supply and your body reacts. And that's why. So taking deep breaths is putting the oxygen back in your brain. And within a couple minutes, your brain will send a signal to your body saying, hey, I'm okay. You don't need to freak out. We're going to be fine. So breathing is the biggest one. And then also talking to myself is important because I wish right before I'm competing, it's just you and the equipment, and then it's judges staring at you, getting ready to judge what you're about to
Right.
do. And that feels like a lot of pressure. So talking to myself and saying, hey, you're actually going to be fine, and believing it. Even if I'm nervous, believing
It's
like
going to be
you're
fun.
going to be okay. You can do it. Like at the end of the day, no matter what, you have felt this feeling before. I know you don't like this feeling, but you feel it, and that's fine. Take a deep breath and kind of just looping that over and over again. That's what helps the
That's
most. And it doesn't go away completely, but it's like you got to be your own friend at that moment because if you deny it, like you're screwed.
Oh my God. And that's really helpful because I think a lot of people don't go for things because they can't imagine not being afraid. And so it's really
Yeah.
important for people to know that no, you will be afraid. You might be very afraid, and you have to learn how to transmute that energy and know what you need at any given time. And on some days, like you
Yeah.
said, it might be to literally just close your eyes and go and trust that your body knows what to do. Other days, it might be to literally talk yourself off the ledge or out of or out of your seat.
There was literally a time in practice where I was doing a scale on bars and I was falling. And with every fall, I had like more and more tears in my eyes. And I was just so frustrated that day. Something happened that morning where I don't remember what happened, but like it was just a bit of an off day. And I was doing these releases. And at some point, like, also, if you fall, it's a big punch in the ego because it's like you're not just falling, like you're full on at this height and then you're belly flopping onto the floor and the whole gym can hear it because it's and it doesn't hurt if you land properly, but it's just kind of like this sucks. And I remember there was one where I just landed and I just didn't move and was full on crying, and my coach was like, take a deep breath and go outside, it's okay, like you're good. And at some point she was like, listen, you're really riled up right now, we're not going to yell at you, it's practice, you're going to be okay. I don't think you're in the right mind to finish the rest of the workout. I think what could really benefit you today is to go home and relax. And then we'll just try it again tomorrow. And they sent me home, which I was not used to at all. I mean, I was just expecting kind of more of like, all right, suck it up, you're fine. But instead it was like, listen, we've watched you for the last year. We know that when you get like this, you can't function. It doesn't help anybody. So go home. And I was like, wow. Okay. And the next day was good. Because I just needed a break.
Yeah, I don't think I literally just needed a break. You know, we try to push ourselves through, and that's not what we need at all. It's you saying that reminded me that we have a shared experience. We have several shared experiences, but Dancing with the Stars. I was on season 3 of Dancing with the Stars, and you won your season. What season were you on?
I was, I think I was season 20.
Oh my gosh! Wow, 20 seasons later. But I remember that I had that same experience where my dance partner, Louis Van Amstel, he would not let me rehearse on Mondays. Like we would go live on Tuesday, and I was such an overachiever, and I just like was so focused, and he would say no. He would make me go home early, go to the spa, call your mom. He said, you can't come from this place. You have to allow yourself to, he would say, go to nothing so that you can have everything. Like, let your mind go empty, let your body fully relax, like let everything actually go to zero. And from that place, he, like, right before we would go on, he wouldn't let me like run it in my head and go over and over and over again. He's like, you know it, it's in you, it's in your body. So, you know, it's great to hear.
So I have a question for you, because like this would happen for me competing on dancing or just competing in general. Right before I go, and this is like especially on floor, because I'm very open about being nervous before competitions, being nervous right before I hop onto the equipment. And then a lot of people will go, well, then like, why do you do the sport if you get that anxious? I mean, like at Olympic trials, I was thrown up in the corner because I was freaking out about competing. Like that's, everybody really wants to feel those things, you know? But as soon as I salute and as soon as I'm on the floor, that's, and it's me, but like, that's not me anymore. That's a completely different person. As soon as I'm on the floor, right before I hop on the floor, I'm like, please don't look at me. Please don't look at me. I'm scared. I don't want to do it. And then I get on the floor, and next thing I know, like I hear my music turn on, and suddenly I'm like, okay, my job right now is to get all of you to look at me and to get all of you invested in what I'm doing. And I want to have such a good time that you are having a good time too. Like that's it. It's a complete brain switch. And I was wondering if like when you're on dancing or if you're motivational speaking or whatever it might be, do you get that feeling of like, okay, that's not me anymore?
Absolutely. There's times where I feel like I'll get off stage and I'll be like, I don't even know what just happened. Like I don't know what words came out of my mouth. I don't know. And I just hope for the best.
And that's how you know it was good. That's
you're
the
just tunnel. Like in it. You're really, that's so cool. You know, I feel like in another life, I consider myself somewhat of an athlete. Like,
absolutely. Here's my thing. I'm a big believer that even if you claim you're not athletic, you are still an athlete in some way, shape, or form. There is something out there that you are incredible at, and you don't know because you haven't tried it. And there's something that you can do that I can't because I haven't tried it either.
True.
Like, and encouraging people to, like, of course, encouraging people to move and having that freedom in movement, that's so important. But make it fun. What do you like? Yeah. You don't have to always just go to the gym and do the workouts that maybe make you feel bored. Find something that makes you you. And I don't know. I'm a big believer that everybody's an athlete. Like,
yeah, I actually had a friend once called me. She called me an athlete of impact, and I was like, "Whoa, that is such a beautiful thing to say." Because you know, it's like you look at the dedication and the resilience and the mindset and
Yeah,
ambition and everything that it takes to go all the way. And you know that it really is a mindset, not just an occupation or position. It's a thought process. It's a way to
absolutely.
approach life and say, no matter how many times I fall, I will keep getting back up. And you know, even to think of how you treat yourself, you know, that if you mistreat yourself, that's not going to get you there any faster, and
Yeah.
it's not going to help you to stay there. It's actually ultimately going to hurt you. So to know that self-care actually has to kind of fit inside of this as well.
It's
Yeah.
everywhere. That's like, you could have, and this is something that we're taught in the sport, whether it's you learn it just from being in it or someone tells you it, in my case both. You could have every piece of the puzzle. Physically, all your skills are together. Physically, you're in the right shape to go and hit a minute 30 long routine, because it's so long and it's so exhausting. It takes a second to get there. Like, you could have all your competition routines, your hair could be perfect, all the conditions are right, you wake up and it's sunny. But here, if you're not here, you're done for. That's it. That's it. Like, whereas maybe you don't have all the stamina, maybe you don't have all the physical, maybe it's raining out, but if here you're connected and you can connect to what you're about to do, you can still do it. So it kind of shows that, like, that mental aspect is everything. And to say you're an athlete of impact, that feels very, very true and very honest. I mean, that's like that.
Yeah, that
I don't know how to explain that. That is a big badge of
yeah,
honor
no,
that you should hold.
I wear that.
Because to leave a footprint,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
good. Yeah.
And you know, I feel that way for our first responders right now, our nurses, our mamas, our, you know, people like our mail workers, our bus drivers. There's, you know, there's a way to be an Olympian in your own life, you know, and to show up
Absolutely.
when it's really hard. And that's where so many people are doing right now. And for those who like may be just joining us, I am talking to Lori Hernandez, who is my sweet, beautiful friend who's in New Jersey right now. This year, she just weeks ago was actually training to go to the Olympics, which have now been postponed to next year. And we are talking about her Olympic mindset, being an advocate for mental health, and just really how we can stay balanced and motivated, and what some of the gifts are, you know, in this time. So if anyone wants to ask a question, I've never done this before. This is my first interview on the Instagrams that I'm have a guest. So I'm going to push the button here and see what happens. Okay, this is great. Let's see. Mostly we have fans right now, but oh wait, here we go.
Well, until more questions come in, I do have a
Yeah,
okay, there we go. I was going to say, I have a question.
Oh my gosh, Lori, you're such a so much. You just deserve to see that. People love you.
That's so sweet.
Let's see who else is up here.
Oh,
My heart. Oh, there's another gymnast that just wants to love on you. Everybody just wants just loving on you. But yeah, so if you guys want to ask some questions, I don't know how you do that, but when you do it, it pops a little button up here, and then I get to, like, there's like a little question mark thingy, I think. Oh, here you go.
They have little questions for the comments too.
Oh, this is great. This is great. Okay, what keeps your energy up when you're feeling low?
It really depends how low I'm feeling. I mean, there's different. Yeah, it really. If I'm just kind of feeling a little bit sluggish and a little unmotivated, then I notice that moving really helps me get out of that. The goal really is to. I'm one to dwell. I want to sit and I'm like, yeah, like, oh, I'm sad. Let's
Me too.
it. Like,
no, I lather it. I'm like, let me roll around for a little while.
I'm like, is this sadness? Like,
did you see the movie Inside Out, by the way?
I did.
Yeah, no, my husband, when sadness came, we were in the middle of the theater, he squeezed my knee and he was like, I understand you. No, because everyone would think that I'd be joy, but I'm actually sadness and Eeyore. Like, there's just like a little drop of sadness that's always in my bucket. And I think that that's kind of what actually helps to like give me the ambition to fight for more.
Yeah, well, also, like, it makes you an empath too, because I feel like if you don't have that hurt and you don't have that sad, like, at the end of the day, unfortunately, that is something that everybody can relate to. And to connect, you know, I think, and also, like, if you look at the best artists and the most inspiring people out there, they got a little sad.
That is very true.
You know? So, I mean, yeah, but I guess going back to the question, like, getting moving is really important. And then sometimes I still don't feel like moving. So if that's the case, then like turning to anything art form, music, watching movies and TV shows. If I'm up for baking, usually I'll end up burning the kitchen down.
What, girl?
Yeah. I can't
Okay.
bake that well. I made an apple pie. It came out really bad, but I made it. And that's what matters.
That is what matters. I love it. Somebody in the comments said they're kind of a little sad. It's kind of true. Just a little bit. A pinch of sadness. Everybody needs it. Let's see. Oh. What do the coaches say to you after a routine in competitions?
Well, depending on how we do, you know. I haven't competed with the coaches that I have now because moving ended up just me going to a completely different gym. But training in New Jersey and competing, and it really depended what kind of routine we hit. If it was a good routine, then, you know, of course, like, you get a lot of hugs, and it was like most of it was just whatever happens here, good. If not, if it didn't go well, ignore it and focus on the next thing. The next thing, just let it be good. Like, if it didn't work out, don't let it carry to the next one. And that's really helpful. That's like a foundation.
I definitely subscribe to a pity party every now and then. And like when I'm feeling successful, I like to feel more successful. So when I'm doing great, I just stay on.
I want more. I'm a big success junkie, if you couldn't tell. But like when something goes right, I want more things to go right. And so I'm going to add a lot more on my plate.
I do the same thing. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm buried under all the things that I'm wanting to do. And now it's too many things.
And then it leads to a big breakdown, at least for me. And then it leads to me reevaluating my priorities. And then we start from square one again. And then that leads to me being successful, which leads to me wanting more. You know, it's just.
Absolutely. So do you just practice the tools, talk to yourself, go through the process? Like, how do you like push yourself to show up for yourself in those times?
Yeah. That's a good question, because younger me handled things very different than I guess me now would handle things. I feel like I'm a lot more empathetic to the things that I'm feeling and how I react to things now. Whereas before it was more of, I don't understand why I did that. That wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't bank on that happening. Now what? And then it was full like freak out mode. So, you know, I think the me now really started around 2016, which came just in time.
Just in time. Here I am. You were 15, 16?
I turned 16 that year in June.
16 years old. But
it happened because what can I say? I did a competition. We started on vault. Vault was fine. Went to bars. Fell on bars, and it was an international meet. And you know, and international meets are stressful because I'm not repping the gym that I train at. I'm repping the country. That's not stressful. You know, you got to look down, and instead of looking down and seeing, you know, just a wrist, you see the American flag, and that can be really stressful.
I can imagine.
But I was doing a skill on bars and I fell, and I remember feeling really disappointed that I fell. And then usually when you rotate events, they chime the arena, like they make a noise, and then you all get into single file, and then you walk in a line. Everyone does their 30-second touch, which you get 30 seconds to warm up, and then you cold routine it and you compete, and that's that. And I remember feeling upset, and then the chime hit, and I was like, okay, it is what it is. I didn't mean to do that. Obviously nobody wants to fall. That stinks, but I can focus on how I can make it better when the competition's done, because there's no room for that right now. Right now, what I can do, and it was kind of like, you know, if you can't control it, don't. And if you can control it, full reins, baby. So I was like, okay, I can't control the fact that I just fell. That really sucks. But what I can control is the fact that I know that I love competing beam. I know that I feel stressful, but I want to hit a good beam routine. And so in that moment, I was like, okay, I'm going to tell myself that bars went really well. I'm going to tell myself that I hit a nice routine. The meet is going smoothly. The pressure is off, and I'm just here to have a good time. And I ended up finishing the meet and coming out, I think, still in third, which is with a fall, that's not too bad.
And that really shows the power of the mind. that if you allow yourself to slide down that slippery slope of continuing to replay something over and over in our heads, that just simply doing that is what's actually holding us back, that we can turn it around, we can tell ourselves something positive, and we can look to the future instead of focusing on what just happened. That's incredible.
Yeah. And I mean, I've had moments where, like, you know, complete opposite. I was 12 and I was really scared to compete. And we started on bars and I did the first skill and I fell. And then I got nervous and I was so rattled that I ended up falling again on the same event, and then went to beam, proceeded to fall twice, and then went to floor, proceeded to fall twice. And then like it was just a never ending loop, because I got so spooked that I decided to take the spook and carry it with me because I didn't know where to put it.
Man.
So
I'm going to ask you some more questions from here, but then I have a personal question for you. Oh, this is a fun one. Just, what's your favorite color?
Oh, it changes on the daily. I am a person that can't make decisions, but we're gonna go with yellow for today.
Love that. Okay. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's just keep it light for a moment. Favorite breakfast?
Favorite breakfast would have to be breakfast is like my favorite meal. I'm a lover of like pancakes. You can't go wrong with pancakes, waffles, like anything you can make on your own. That's fun.
So question for you, when you're in training, what does your diet look like?
Not pancakes. Okay, so I used to be really strict with what I was eating, especially when I was younger, and I am not that anymore. It's more of like, before I was really neurotic about it, and I think I kept telling myself like, it's for the craft, you know, like this is what it's for, I have to do it, and I was neurotic about it, but I didn't enjoy it at all. Whereas now there's no specific diet, there's no there's no like boundaries, it's just eating clean. Like, I know that I'm small, I know that I'm 5'1", but I'm an athlete, and a girl's got to eat. And not only does a girl got to eat, a girl's got to eat her carbs. Like, because there would be times where we'd go to meets and they're like, okay, no carbs. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I need fuel. Like, and I think that was something that I was worried about when I was younger. And now it's like, there's no reason to be worried about. Dude, you're living life. If you want to have a slice of bread or two, you can have a slice of bread or two. And if you want to have that cookie in the corner, go have that cookie in the corner. Try not to have 10 like you did when you were 6, but go have that cookie in the corner.
That's really helpful to know.
Just enjoy yourself. Eat clean and enjoy things sometimes, you know?
That's really good. All right, let's see. Yeah. This is very specific. Lori, do you have any tips for how to hold a better handstand?
I do, actually. The secret, and which nobody tells anybody, it's in your fingertips. So when you're in a handstand and you're upside down, the weight shouldn't be in the front of your palm, because if it's here, you're going to keep falling the wrong way. But also, if you keep falling the opposite way, it shows that when your hands are down, you're not using your fingers to grab the floor, and that should be like your little, I'm not quite sure how to explain it. That's like your guard. If you fall one way, you can use your fingertips. And then if you start to fall the other way, if you roll your hands back, you'll balance back. It's like a little seesaw, but your hands are the base of it. So if you're not focused on your hands and your fingertips, chances are you won't hold it for very long.
We learned something. Okay, I'm going to try that later. I'm going to grab my finger. I actually really enjoy trying handstands. Headstands are my favorite because you get a little bit more surface area. But
they're so much fun. I love handstands. I've loved them since I was a little kid. Like, that's just so much fun for you. Like, let's see how long we can hold these, you know?
Right. Here we go. Okay, what's your favorite gymnastic skill?
Oof. My favorite gymnastic skill would have to be one, it's called a rikna. Basically, you start with a base skill. So you learn these when you're a little bit younger. And my personal base skill, because I couldn't do anything else when I was younger, which is fun, it's called a stalder. Basically, you straddle and you sit under the bar and then you come back up. Now, a rikna has the base of a stalder, so you're straddling under the bar, but then when you come up and your feet close together and you're upside down, you're now going to let go of the bar and straddle through and catch. And learning it was a real pain in the butt. But then finally catching it, there's something really neat about doing something extremely hard and being in the air and like knowing where you are and knowing where the bar is and knowing that it's going to be a good one. That feels good. And that skill makes me feel good.
I love that. So. Let's see. What do you do when you're frustrated?
I usually react two types of ways when I'm frustrated that I've noticed. The first one being sometimes I'll go to practice and I can't get a skill. And sometimes I'll just kind of like stand and cry in the corner because it happens and I'm frustrated. And I've also learned that if I try to just suck back in the tears and not feel it, it will linger longer. And also if I'm that emotional, then I can't focus on what I'm doing. So sometimes you just got to go and let it out. And then the other one is being angry about it. And that does happen. When that happens, I usually have to like physically remove myself from wherever I am. Which usually leads to me going to the bathroom. And a lot of times this is mostly on beam and bars. I'll be doing a skill and something happens. And I'm a perfectionist, but a lot of times that's said as like a humble brag. Like, you know, I'm a perfectionist. Like, I'm a perfectionist, but it gets in the way.
I think
like it's not
gets
like
in the way of most people, though. Actually, I really do.
Yeah,
I think we want to think of it as a compliment, but in fact, it actually tends to hold us back because it's something that is actually not really attainable, and it's just an idea. And when we're trying to pursue it, we often miss what's really important, and whether right?
Oof. Yeah, I mean, I felt that. Yeah, it's like you're like, okay, well, if I can reach perfection, then that means I get to ditch any opinions around me and I am here and I've made it. But you never actually make it to that point. You're always going to have something off. So appreciating what you're doing and embracing in a softer way of how you can make it better is much better than just hammering down and being like, no, it has to be better. Because I'm still kind of like that and we're working on it, but it gets in the way. And if I do something, my coaches will say like, to the eye that looked beautiful, and I'm like, but when I was upside down it felt wrong and I'm angry about it. And if it gets to that point, they're kind of like, okay, you need to go somewhere else, take a break, get a sip of water. It's not that big of a deal. You're in practice, you can try again. And then at that point I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. But it gets in the way sometimes, so it's either crying in the corner or leaving.
Well, yeah, and then you just come back to it. Let's see. Oh, there's so many. We've got lots of questions now. Oh, this is a good one. How do you handle burnout?
Oh,
that's a great question. And
that's a really
first
good
of all,
question.
do you feel like you have moments of burnout? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Let's think. I had one earlier this year actually, where it was just, I mean, the sport is just extremely physically demanding. It's, you know, it's what I signed up for. So there'll be times where my body is just exhausted and my brain is trying to figure out different variables of like how I can still keep it going. But if my body's sending me signals that things are getting a little bit too much, and then I can it's like a cup full of running water. Like if I can feel, you know, my brain be in the cup and my thoughts be in the water, if I can feel it starting to overflow, I need to like stop immediately, because if I keep going, then I'll just end up having like a full like mental breakdown, and it'll take sometimes like up to a week to just get back into the swing of things. So the best way for me to handle a burnout is communicating with the people around me. Because on top of, you know, at least when I was younger, and I would still feel this way, but when I was younger, it was just gymnastics and homeschooling. Now it's gymnastics, people know who you are, and you work outside of that. It's not all you do. So sometimes when it gets too much, it's going to my team and saying, hey, I need a second. We have to stop. Like, we have to take a second, and they go, okay, like, we've been here before, like, let us know when you're ready. And then coming to my coaches, hey, this feels like a lot. And they go, okay. And what my coaches, they're Chinese, they say, okay, take care of yourself, which means they're going to step back. They're not going to say anything the whole day. They're just going to let you be. They're going to let you decide what your assignments are today. They're going to let you decide how much you can handle, and whatever you show them, they'll help you and correct you on it. But aside from that, they're stepping back and they're letting you take the reins today. And communicating is usually the best, and then it just takes a day and then I'm good the next day. But if I let the burnout go and I don't communicate with people, first of all, they can't help me if they don't know what's going on. And second of all, that doesn't help me because I know I'm well aware that I'm not capable of fixing it on my own, which is a big ego thing.
Right.
Fixing on my own. I don't want to let anybody in. You know, I am independent. There's no pride in Like, where's the pride in knowing that you can do it by yourself? It took a while, but at some point it was like, okay, you need to start letting people in. And as soon as I did that, the burnouts, the blowouts got a lot better.
Yeah, I think what I love so much about talking to you is like, so for those who don't know, Lori and I, we pretty much know each other through We Day. And We Day is this amazing event where thousands of kids come together who all have earned their way to basically this massive concert and speaking event that they've gotten there because of the service that they've done. And she and I both, volunteer and we give back. And so this is like, something that we're both very passionate about. And so when I see you there, it's kind of like an even playing field. And then I go to your Instagram and like, I remember like who and what, like what you do with your body. And I think sometimes I forget that you're not a superhero, like, because you are to me. Like, to me, I'm like, if only, like, I see you and I'm just like, wow, like to be able to do that, like you're defying gravity. You're just like, it's magical. It's incredible out there. But getting to talk to you is so cool because I remember that you're a person. You're a girl who had a dream and who has worked their butt off and who overcomes mental and emotional obstacles and who pushes themselves too hard and gets mad sometimes and whose body betrays them just like ours. Like, sometimes for myself, I'm like, oh, it's just the past. It's behind me.
They're just a different kind of person.
You're just a different cloth. And it's like, no, actually you are, because you've pushed yourself to be, and you have incredible people in your life that, we've talked a lot about how important it is to take breaks. Like, we haven't talked about, overcoming and pushing and going further. We actually have talked more about pulling back and stopping and trusting and not pushing and feeling your feelings and getting back up.
And knowing that it's okay to take a break and to breathe for a second. Because also I noticed a lot, and I think a lot of it has to do with social media. And I had posted something actually stating, as soon as everybody was in quarantine, it turned into this contest of who could be the most productive, who is doing the most, who is accomplishing the most, how productive are you going to be with the time that you have off? And I didn't see anybody saying anything around the lines of, you're in a pandemic. The world, especially with someone with anxiety, feels like it's on fire. And now you want me to be productive knowing what's going on out there. No, I feel scared. And the thing that I'm used to doing has now just been stripped from me. I need a break. You know what I need? I don't need to be productive. I need to like sleep and do nothing for a second.
And
and so it was letting people
yourself. And that's the thing, is it's like, there's this, I think, separation that's now happening between who we are and what we do, and when we sort of aspire to certain things, we have to ask ourselves, do I want that because it's going to make me feel like I matter? Or do I want that because it's what I desire? And whether I get it or don't get it, I still know that I have value. And there's creating that separation. I think sometimes when we are striving for perfection or we're going for something, we don't get there, we think that we have somehow failed as a human, not at whatever we were attempting to do. And so it's really beautiful, like humanity just like stripped back, and to go, wow, like, you are a beautiful person, and one of the beautiful things that you do happens to happen on, in the sky, like on your toes.
It was like, as soon as quarantine and everything hit, it's almost like a big part of it felt like the world took away a large chunk of something that I was doing, moved it to the side, and said, okay, without this, who are you? Like, if you don't get to do this one thing, who are you? You're still you. You don't get to do this right now. And that's
what would you say to that, Lori? Like, what do you value? What have you learned from this last month in quarantine?
So when I was a little kid, the social worker in my mom is about to pop out. When I was a little kid and I had first started gymnastics, I think, you don't know what to look for in a child athlete. You don't know if they're going to be good or not. I mean, sometimes, I feel like every mom thinks their kid is like super special, because they're your moms. But my mom, and like talking to her now and looking back, she was like, I saw something in you. You were not going to stop until you got what you wanted. And that's a lot of fun, and that's really neat, and that's crazy that you're my kid. But part of me was reserved because it was like, okay, if it doesn't happen, how are you going to react? So since day one, she said, look, you're Lori. and then there's gymnastics. You are not Lori the gymnast. You are Lori who just so happens to be a gymnast, but as your mom, I see you as much more than that. Who are you without it? Since I was little, she would always condition that. And so that I've carried that since I went to the Olympics. I mean, I've carried that everywhere. And it's like, if I didn't have a good meet, that hurt because I wanted to do well, but it didn't break everything. And that's so important. I mean, that's a big reason. Yeah, that's a big reason. Like, I don't have the rings tattooed on me, not because I have anything against it. I think it's awesome. I mean, so many Olympians have the Olympic rings because that's a badge of honor, and I carry that with honor. However, I do feel like once I get the rings on me, that's who I am. Like, this is something that I did, and it was so cool that I had to just get it on me. And growing up with hearing my mom say, hey, I see you as more than that, I'm like, okay, that's not all I am. I don't need that. So I ended up getting something completely different. I ended up getting like an olive branch on my side because like me and my sister went to Greece. It was a lot of fun. That was my awakening of like wanting to come back to gymnastics. And then also the Olympics started in Greece, and I was like, hey, there we go.
Like, you're like, how are you gonna make this I love that.
I'm like, we're gonna put life into what happened, like,
and not make it a branding, because as we all can see, the world has changed. It's continuing to change. We don't, I have so much hope for what our future can be, because I think that there was so many systemic issues that we were dealing with anyway that we weren't willing to look at or address, honestly. And this time to slow down, the time for our planet to get to breathe and to the skies to get to clear up. There actually are a lot of, positive things that are happening during this time as well. It isn't all, grim. But we don't know what the world is going to look like when this is over. And, like, we're going to be rooting for you next year. But when you think about like the fullness of your life and everything that you're passionate about, like, can you share some other things that you feel like, maybe you don't know that these are some of your other like passions or joys or things that you want to accomplish in your life?
Yeah, I mean,
you're already an accomplished author. I do know that, right? You have a children's book as well.
Yeah, I have a children's book, and I have a book that was written to basically just explain everything that happened before the Olympics, and kind of that story. And we just updated it, which was so much fun.
So cool.
And it was basically kind of like, okay, here's what we're doing since you haven't seen me in 4 years. And in that book, it's fun because like I get to talk about mental health, and I get to talk about like going to therapy, and I get to talk about just letting somebody in, and it's such a different dynamic than where I was when we first came out with it.
That's cool.
So that's definitely a fun one. I think another one just being, is that a squirrel? That's a weird looking squirrel. There's a squirrel on my window. Hi, buddy. Okay, sorry. Wow. But another one would definitely have to be just like entertainment, acting, singing, dancing, Broadway.
Oh my God!
All of it.
Girl. Bless you. We want to see you.
Thank you. Since I was a little kid, and I think that's a big part of doing gymnastics too. Something about performing. Maybe the right before makes me feel like I'm gonna throw up everywhere. But when I'm out there, again, like that's not me anymore. It feels like somebody else. So like apparently when I used to do ballet, I don't remember this, but my mom said that we had our first dance recital and there were a couple hundred people in the crowd, and the curtains open, and all of a sudden everybody just sat down and started crying, and there's just me in the corner like doing the whole thing, milking it up, and just being so excited to perform in front of everybody. And I want to keep doing that, even if it's not in athletic form. Like I find it so like, and of course I think like storytelling is great. It's wonderful. But from just another point of view, that's so much fun. That's so much fun. I love being somebody else, and not like, not in a harsh moral way. Like I now know who I am, and I know the things I like, and I'm still figuring out who I am, but it's so much fun to step into somebody else's shoes. It's almost like,
that's really exciting.
I don't know. Yeah,
I can see you on a sitcom. I can see you hosting. I can see you doing a lot of things like that. That's really cool. So yeah,
thank you.
That's exciting to imagine. Like, you're gonna have like 3, 4, 5 careers. And be successful at all of them. I'm sure of it.
I'm so excited. like I want it all. Like and since I was little, my mom was like, there are no limits if you want to do this. And I think a lot of stress of going into 2020 was like, oh my god, I need to top 2016.
Oh, right.
And my mom was like, no, like no, we're not trying to top anything. This is new. This is new. All of this is new. And that kind of got me excited for life after gymnastics. Like, all of this is new. You don't have to top anything. Do it all. And I was like, okay.
That's really good. That's really, really good. Aw. Well, Lori, I love you, and I feel like I could spend all day just like chatting with you.
Oh, same here. Wait, before we go, I have one question. Okay. When was a moment where you felt most brave?
That's a great.
Because I've been talking about
You
me
have
a lot,
been.
and all my brave moments.
Okay, Lori. Okay.
But every time I talk to you, I get this like golden nugget of info that I want to just carry forever. So I want to hear this from you.
Okay. So for me, my bravery is quiet. My bravery is not what I do when people are looking. My bravery is when I tell someone that they've hurt me.
Wow.
That's when I feel the most brave, when I am able to let someone know that I've been hurt. My bravery is when I show up somewhere and don't want to be there and tell the truth. I think that's my bravery.
Yeah.
Like, my bravery is in getting back up when I've been knocked down, and I have been knocked down. I've been knocked down a lot. And I think, it's interesting because that's why, I love you for so many reasons, but one of them is that I know that what we see is just a glimpse of who you are. It's just the tip of the iceberg. And I know how many moments I've been in where there's so much more going on than what you can see, and how bright I'm shining in that moment. And that the real bravery isn't the ability to look like everything's okay. It's when I can show you that I wasn't okay. That's my real bravery, is when I say, what you see is a show. That's a show, and I can put on a great show.
Yeah.
But who I am and what it took to get there, that is where the bravery really comes from. So, yeah.
Ooh, you said my bravery is quiet. Wow.
Yeah, it's vulnerability, real vulnerability. And, and vulnerability doesn't always look like, crying your butt off, or sometimes vulnerability is just like, is letting people get close to you, like actually letting them in and saying, like, I'm going to let you close enough to hurt me.
Yeah.
That's
I just had a moment with someone who's new in my life. I had met them this year. And like, friendship, relationship, family, whoever it is, there's always that moment where you're kind of like, I'm scared of like messing this up.
Right.
And I am not.
No, I'm hugging my pillow.
I'm very, literally same. I'm like, I'm very good at physically showing you how brave I am. Even though I'm scared, I can get my body to move. If I am terrified out of my wits end, my heart is racing just thinking about it. If I'm scared and if I'm thrown up in the corner and I'm freaking out, when the time comes, physically, you can count on me to show up 100%. Now, emotionally, I resonate a lot with what you're talking about, because usually that wouldn't be something that I would communicate with this person. I don't want to tell someone that I'm scared of messing something up. But I sat there in front of this person and I was so nervous, I actually ended up like crying a little bit, which is very off-brand. That's actually very on-brand for me. Never mind.
But I know you want to like suck them back in. You're like, this is not the reaction that I was hoping to have right now. Like,
I was like, no, you can't. And it's just, and they were like, something's off. You've been odd for the last couple of days. And I said, yeah, because I'm scared of messing things up. That's my biggest fear. I don't want to do something wrong. And they just like, that was a giant stepping stone in our relationship and like in us talking. But I felt more brave in that moment than like hopping up for Olympic trials and competing one of the routines. Maybe not beam. That was scary. That's different. But there's some events where it's like that. Yeah, that's scary, but I know how to do that. I'm conditioned to be uncomfortable. I am trained to be uncomfortable. Yeah. Emotionally, that's not quite it. I'm not used to that. And so that when you said bravery is like is silent, it's
Yeah.
quiet, I felt that.
And
That was
it's
like
the things that we do when nobody's looking. It's the choices that we
yeah.
make when we had the opportunity to do something different and no one would know either way. Like that's the real brave choice. And for those of us who are recovering perfectionists, I think that's another part of our bravery, is to go without knowing, to take that step without being able to see the full staircase, to just go out there and be like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not going to pre-plan this. I'm not going to make every scenario up in my head. I know I have whole monologues with myself before having conversations with people. And, you know, like, I love the idea that all bravery it can't be seen. That by the time you are actually seeing the moment, you're seeing the moment being released. Like the real bravery was the shaky step up to the beam, the shaky step, like that moment when we're in it, we're transcendent.
I feel like there's like a moment between and it can definitely be titled as bravery. I think that's what I've always capped it to be. But that moment of just being anxious and not knowing what's going to happen versus the 2 seconds later when I'm on the equipment, there's some odd transfer of like trust that happens from like one part of me to another. I'm not quite sure how to explain it, but that trust in like it's like a trust in future me to take the reins and know that future me is responsible enough to make sure that I'm doing my best. So now I can sit back and relax and close my eyes and go, okay, being a perfectionist is not going to change what happens within the next 5 minutes. It's not going to do anything. If anything, it's going to stress you out. So take a deep breath and trust that transfer, you know, like trust future you to do the right thing. And that has helped immensely with being under pressure, competition or not. It's knowing like at the end of the day, fundamentally, I want to do the right thing.
Oh my God.
I want to hit a good routine. I want to be a good person. I want to tell you the truth. I want to show up. I want to do all those things. And it's like, that's all those things that I just listed are like the foundation of why I always get so anxious. And it's knowing
you
like,
don't know what you're going to be met
to
with.
break
you don't know
it.
you don't know what you're going to be met with. And that is the very nature of bravery, is walking into something and not having a clue. There's a quote, one of my favorite, this book that I had called Oneness, there was a quote that said, "You are all that you're yet to become." So meaning that like at 6 years old, you were the Lori that you are today at 6, because inside of that Lori was the potential for all that you were going to blossom into. And so I think when you are standing on that beam, you are meeting a version of yourself that already always existed and had been waiting for you until that moment. And I think, you know, for those of us that, you know, have whatever our beam is in our own lives that we are going for, you know, to know that there's a version of you that already exists, that has already achieved the goal, and that all you have to do is to show up and to like extend that hand towards yourself and say, I've got you. I've got you. I've done it. Done everything.
Well, that's like and this is again very on brand for me. When I saw Frozen 2 and have you seen Frozen 2? Please tell me you've seen Frozen 2.
I know.
No! Okay, well, there's a scene, I won't spoil it. There's a scene where like Elsa's doing something and I have an older sister, and so anything sister related, Supergirl, the Danvers sisters, Frozen, like anything sister related, that's it. I'm all yours. But Elsa does something where she has to trust herself, and somebody very important to her is on the outside of it and looking her dead in the eyes and telling her like, you are the one that you've been waiting for all your life. You're the one that you've been. And so like ever since hearing that, like from literally what you just said, like, I know, every time I think about it, it makes me want to cry. But that feeling of like, I take a lot of pride in knowing that younger me would be very proud. She waited for someone like this to come along. And I'm not perfect. I got a lot of work that needs to be done. I don't know everything, but there's a place that I think if she could grab onto future me and see what's happening, I think she would be proud. And to me, that matters more than anything.
Absolutely. I know that for an actual fact. I mean, you know, we as achievers and overachievers at times, you know, we put our goals in front of ourselves, and we are going for gold. Like we are going for all of the way, the one of the one, you know. And I think sometimes we forget that there was a point where we just wanted to be able to stand up there, and we just wanted to be able to jump, and then we wanted to be able to leap, and every single one of those goals we've tackled them, and we sometimes
we became the people that we needed when we were younger,
exactly
you know.
exactly and that, you know, for anyone who's watching, you know, this time the series is called Stay Motivated, but it's not meant to be it's not meant to push you anywhere you don't want to go. It's just meant to be conversations about where we are, and some days we feel like, you know, taking on the world, and other days we don't know what we're going to do with that day.
It's meant to hold your hand either way.
Exactly. Let's see if there's any more questions.
Wow, look at us go.
I know, this is so...
Thank you for having me on your live,
gosh,
by the way. Like,
you're my
this
first
is so much
guest.
fun.
This is so cool.
You know, I love talking to you.
Yeah.
We connected since the moment that we met, so it's wonderful being here and being able to talk about all the scary things with you. I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else.
And me too. I feel
you handle my nerves with care, my dear.
Yeah, and it feels so good because we don't normally get this much time together. You know, it's usually we're passing each other in the hallway, seeing each other.
I'm like stuffing bread in my mouth before they just shove a mic over, you know?
Like, oh, do you need me? Hand me my microphone. Let's go on stage. But, you know, yeah, I think in this world of social media, we spend so much time only with the ideas of one another. And we look up to each other and we're like, man, look at these amazing things that you've done. Or we're at home feeling like we've done nothing. And that's absolutely not true at all. So this was just like such a wonderful experience. I will definitely do it again. And I want to have you back on, you know, down the line to talk more about your journey. And I know that you know that we're rooting for you, but not just as an athlete, but just as a human. You're such a bright, beautiful just spirit. And every time you talk and show up, it's just like, man, whatever you choose to do, you are successful, and you will continue to be successful. So, yeah.
Aww. Thank you so much.
I love you, girl.
I love
this
you.
This is so cool. And you keep doing you and sharing your journey with us wherever you like as you progress. And yeah, well,
I love talking to you. It's like you leave like shrapnels of wisdom wherever you walk. So it's an honor to be in any of those paths, and I've been in a couple of them. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, it's my fueling station. Not gonna lie, earlier today, two things. One is I was very nervous because I know it's crazy. I know it's dumb, but it's true. I was very nervous.
It's not dumb.
Digital platforms just feel strange to me. You know, I'm still
scary. They're intimidating.
Yeah, it is intimidating. Also, I'm a you know, I got this young face, but I'm a little older lady. And so, like,
you get out of here.
Technology this way, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, what's this even going to be like? And I like know you well enough that it was like I don't really need to like research Lori, like I would like a guest, but you know, and it's just so it's crazy, like an hour ago or however long ago, to be like scared and then for us to have this conversation that I can tell through the comments was so meaningful to people, and you know, I hope that the people at home feel a little hopeful, feel a little bit inspired, because that's our goal.
I feel that.
All right, Lady Lump, you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you so much again. This is wonderful. I feel so whole.
Oh, good. I'm glad that you do, and yeah, you keep enjoying your family, keep, you know, sharing your journey, and yeah, we'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Stay safe out there.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, you guys, how amazing is Lori? Like, seriously, such a sweet and beautiful soul. I'm so glad that we did this. Quarantine has been, you know, just an interesting time where we have more time to kind of explore things and to see where we are. I am very shy about being this forward facing. I know that seems strange being an actor, but it's true. I get really weird about talking. But I know that I have some incredible people in my life that are doing amazing things, and I just am going to try to open myself up to being a little bit braver and tackling some of my goals and fears, and this is one of them. So as of now, I think I'll be back every Monday around this time. I'll put up a flyer by that time, and you know, if you guys want to leave comments or go on my page and just let me know people that you might want to hear from. that could help us to stay motivated during these uncertain times. So anyway, thank you all for being here. I love you. I wish you continued health, and I'm sending love and light and prayers to everyone in your family. Stay safe, stay positive, and be well. Talk to you soon.